Hello, everybody, and welcome to the session 0 of Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, here on Dork Tales. I am your Dungeon Master, Kelly. I use he and him as my pronouns, and folks, I'm very excited to be starting off this campaign. This is going to be a great one we've been looking forward to a while, and today we are going to be going over session 0. You're going to be able to meet the cast. You're going to hear a little bit about this module that my green screen is not completely eating, which is great. And then we are going to talk about our characters, do a little bit of setup. That said, there will be some mild spoilers for the first chapter of this book, mostly the character creation section and a couple of plot things. Nothing that major, so if you're looking to watch this and not get spoiled, I don't think it's going to be anything more than like reading the back of a novel, right? You'll know a basic setup. You are going to a place. There are things. That said, I'm very excited to be hopping into game on Monday next week, but we're going to talk more about that in a minute. I want to thank you all to Dork Tales. I want to thank you all and welcome you to Dork Tales. Dork Tales is a group of friends in the Pacific Northwest of Canada and smattering throughout the world who get together and play tabletop role-playing games. We are a narrative forward, queer friendly, pretty amazing community here, and we're happy if you would come and join us. Our Discord's free, so consider joining and hanging out with us. We're always available to chat, especially if you add us. Also, as we're going into this, if you have never watched one of our modules before, what we do is we run the module, and at the end of every chapter, we do a how to run episode where we do a retrospective on that chapter and then talk about what we could have done differently, what we should have done differently, and some suggestions for new DMs or DMs who are trying the module for the first time. It's a great way to try to impart some of our hard-earned wisdom from the campaign. Also, as we're going through this, all of the opinions that we're going to state about the module and our characters are our own, so run your table the way that your table likes to be ran. Let's get into how we do that. But before we do, I really quickly want to thank our sponsor for the episode, Bookworm Games. Bookworm Games is an amazing Vancouver area proprietor with more than 170 different types of dice. Everything from dice bags to dice bins, from resin dice to gemstone dice, and they're even in the process of creating gaming tables. I kid you not. They're going to be made-to-order gaming tables shipped to your house, and that is a fantastic thing that's coming. You can save 10% off of any order at Bookworm Games with code DORKTALES. Thank you to Bookworm Games for sponsoring us. They will also be providing some giveaways for the first 4 episodes of gaming. You will have a chance, if you're watching live, to win a bunch of cool stuff. So let's go ahead and talk really quickly about Phandelver Below, and then let's introduce the cast. Phandelver and Below is a module that covers the area called Phandelin. It is kind of the idyllic, beatific countryside area where the original starter set Lost Mine of Phandelver, a module that most people have played. This adventure kind of remixes that for the first half and then takes it off in a wildly different way that honestly feels very Stephen King. I'm looking forward to it. It's got some major horror vibes. It is going to be a very interesting time, and I look forward to getting into some of the nitty-gritty about that. It does not appear to be connected to anything else, but at the end of it, if you guys all survive the troubles that are coming your way, it does have some suggestions for keeping the story going in other modules that can connect to it, such as Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, perhaps. I know. Interesting. Tonight we are going to be talking about what we are going to be playing, what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about any type of table rules that we are going in with, any type of lines and veils, things like that. We're normally going to be running this on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, unless something like a holiday comes up or something like that. We'll give you plenty of notice when we're not running, but it should be on Twitch every Monday night, starting this coming Monday, September 25th at 7 p.m. Pacific. The YouTube upload is usually going to be 48 hours later, so you can join us there. There also will be made available over on our podcast, which you can find it anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, and leave a like. It is pretty nice to have you there. But now that that is all out of the way, why don't we go around the circle, and what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, the player, and then give me like a little 30-second blurb on who you are. So I'll start. As I said before, I'm your Dungeon Master Kelly. I am a writer, performer, voice actor, and ne'er-do-well, originally from the States, who lives in the Pacific Northwest of Canada. I'm an Aquarius. I like long walks through the Pacific woods, and I like to sleep a lot. That's me, and I'm excited to run this. Christine.
Hello, I'm Christine. I use she, her pronouns, and oh god. You can find me on Dork Tales and Lady Liliana on Twitch, where I stream myself playing video games. I don't know, I'm a history nerd and I do admin for my living. I like doing crafts and playing games.
And you'll be seeing some of Christine's crafts on her character for this show.
If I get it done in time.
I have
oh god, I know what I'm doing all freaking weekend because I did not manage my time well.
All right, over in the corner, we've got Caitlan.
Hi, I'm in the corner. My name is Caitlan. I use she, her pronouns. I am probably still extremely washed out, so I'll try to fix that. It will be different during game. That's okay. I go by Petite Medic on all social medias. I'm trying to get into voice acting a little bit. I'm currently on maternity leave, but I'm generally a nurse. I got a cute little baby boy. Yeah, what else about me? I also like crafting. And I also believe in you, Christine. And I'm really glad, Kelly, that you said Phandelver. That's how it's pronounced, right?
God, I hope so.
I was going to butcher it, absolutely.
What were you going to say?
We're going to, like Phandelver.
I've always heard it as Phandelver,
I have no idea.
which is how they said it in the Adventure Zone originally,
yeah,
too, right?
I was going to say Phandelver.
I mean, you could say, your character could have an accent, I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Any pronunciations are just accents.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, particularly an accent, but I was going to try to do something a little bit different, but it's probably not going to sound any different at all.
You're just going to speak with a Minnesotan. Oh, I'm an alchemist, don't you know?
Oh, don't you know? Just a little halfling girl.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because all halflings are Wisconsin, Minnesotan. All right. Down beneath you, we've got Amy.
Hi, speaking of poor time management, hi, my name's Amy. My pronouns are she, her, they, them, but I know what I need to do this weekend. And that is primarily finishing horns as much as I can and finishing sewing wefts into a wig because I decided that doing a wig entirely from scratch was the most brilliant idea I had ever had for this character. That's going to be good. I can be found at Paradoxical Ghoul on most social media, including my own Twitch channel here. I am a regular on Dork Tales and a Paradoxical Ghoul in the chat. I like crafts. I crochet. I have 3 blankets on the couch behind me, hidden behind this green screen and this very fake background that is not my actual house at all. And part of me is thinking I should have taken a picture of the room, like from the perspective, and then just done a background replacement with the clean room. So every time it's like, yeah, it's my room, but it's clean. Maybe next time. And now that this idea is in my head, I've got to make it happen.
Freaking genius. I'm going to do that too.
Well,
like,
then you just you need to get it just like put up on like a cardboard cutout so you can push it over at dramatic times. Right?
Yeah, or something.
So speaking of dramatic, I guess, Christa.
Yeah, if there's one word to describe me, that'd be me. Hello, I'm Christa. I use she, they, or her, them pronouns. I am a general disaster on my best days. I also work in admin in my daytime. I'm a purchaser, but I also deal with the youths. I do my work for half a day, and then I go to a high school and do lunch supervision, and then come back to the office. So I get to put in my little, I don't know, community service. I don't know what it is. They're all awful, but not really. I, like everyone else, is also big into crafts. I also bit off much more than I could chew with my costume, because Kelly was pulling me into this game being like, you don't have to costume anything big. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll just play a very boring human with a very boring outfit. And like 5 orders from AliExpress later, I've hand crocheted a wig and I've custom made a leather jacket with appliques, and it's So that's me. That's who I am as a person, if I'm being perfectly honest.
If you have watched our Spelljammer game, you have seen Christa as a GIF hippo person.
Yes, I keep Francis close by at all times, just in case.
Close to your heart.
Is that your security, Francis?
Yes, it's my security, Francis.
Your emotional support, Francis.
All right. Speaking of emotional support animals, hey Chris, welcome to Dork Tales.
Hello. Hi, my name is Chris. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns. I am a general layabout and nerd and alt model. You can find me online in various places doing various things. I love D&D. I love Magic the Gathering. I have a hit or miss relationships with Games Workshop products. And I love painting. So I'm not as crafty, hands-on building applique. My costume does not involve handmade leather jackets or wigs. But the question, when will I wear wigs, is always relevant.
Will you wear wigs?
When will you wear wigs?
Wow. All right, let's go in reverse order. So what I want to hear is, so Chris, you went last, so that means you go first. Tell me about Sindri.
All right. So what should I tell you about Sindri? I'm just looking at my prompt here.
Yeah, give me a rough outline, like what class, what race, little brief background details, anything that you want to talk about.
So Sindri is a half-elven monk who has a background as a sailor. He was involved in bare-knuckle boxing contests all along the Sword Coast until he got in a little bit over his head and decided to make a break for it. From boats onto Neverwinter and onward from there.
Nice. And so you're starting as a monk, right? So, and you know which direction you want to go with him, right? You want to go to the dragon path eventually?
Yeah, the Way of the Ascended Dragon from Fizban's Tone of Dragons. I haven't played anything from that book yet, so I'm curious to try it out. And it looks like an interesting take that's not empty hand. I was looking at Long Death, but the vibes on it are a little off, and I wanted to try something a little different.
That's fair. And if you change your mind before it comes time, like if you find that Long Death is perfectly in line, or if you want to be a JoJo character and get a stand, that's totally good. Get your Astral on. God, that's my favorite, guys. I love it so much.
I do always want to get my JoJo on.
Right? Just JoJo pose. Get your art redone. That sounds great, Chris. I look forward to seeing him in play. And as the chat keeps asking, this module does start at level 1, so the characters have a little ways to go before they are going to be getting their subclasses, but I always find that when I build a character, I plan ahead, not as far as Christa plans ahead, as I discovered today. When they uploaded... What?
Okay, your message said, please upload all levels, and I went, crap, I have to upload a PDF.
No, I meant as
that we're doing.
So it was unclear. So I only did level 1, but I was like, if other people upload all the way up, I guess I will too.
I only did up to 6. And to be fair, as you will find out, it's an easy character progression.
That's fair. I got 0 sleep last night, so that's probably why it was unclear, because I have to fly out at 4 a.m. tomorrow, so I'm trying to make sure I go to sleep right after this session 0. Christa, tell us about Carmilla. Or is it Carmilla or Carmilla? Carmilla.
Her family probably says Carmilla, but she says Carmilla. Carmilla Alizarin. Carmilla, okay, just a background on Christa. Christa has been playing D&D for 20 years and has never played an edgelord. And I feel like it's a rite of passage that you have to do playing D&D, or like, you know, I even started in World of Darkness. My first game I ever played was World of Darkness, and I haven't played an edgelord. So I am very excited to play one. So Carmilla Alizarin comes from I don't know, an old money kind of family that has a lot of, has a lot of dark tie-ins to the infernal realm, and there is some kind of prophecy that someone will be born with the ability to take on the form of their great grandfather, who was a vampire, and when she is born, she is a Dhampir, so she's part vampire, part human. I don't know. From what I can tell, it's basically the only thing I can't do is turn into bats. So I'm basically a vampire for all intents and purposes, but she doesn't like that. So she's real grumpy about having to be this big bad, and her family expects her to like take over. I don't know, the world, the countryside. I'm not entirely sure. She probably tried to ignore as much of it because she didn't want to do that. So she decides to run away to do good, and she wants to be a hero. And but she feels so tortured that she goes against that.
Would it be fair to say that you have all of their strengths and none of their weaknesses?
Pretty much, yeah. There's Dampier get a
I
bite.
Blade.
Yeah, honestly, if
Okay,
there's
so
any
you're a
other
daywalker.
edgelord or
Okay.
edgelordy, she gets a bite that she gets like you get a bite that you get health back. You can walk on walls and ceilings, like, but you can't fly. You can't turn into bats, but you can go out in the daylight. So really,
I mean,
it all
turning
works
into
out.
bats to escape awkward social situations is pretty great.
The dream. Oh, and she's a fighter. And I don't think I've ever played just a flat fighter in anything other than one shot. I'm going champion, and I'm very excited about it because it's
Nice.
real easy.
Nothing you play could ever be flat, Christa.
This is unfortunate but true. My
I
back
meant
hurts all the time.
character-wise, but take it as you will. All right, so Amy, tell us about Lyric.
Lyric is a tiefling bard who dabbles in information and has very set ideas about the way she should behave and the world, and it doesn't always line up with what the world really is. But she tries her best, and she also primarily plays something. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this name. What the heck is it called? A Nickel Harpa, I think is what it's called. I said it wrong, totally wrong. It is it's like a violin almost, but it has keys on the handle. It looks real freaking cool and it sounds cool, and you should look it up because
Like a
it's
keytar?
great. Kind
It's
of,
like a
except not
fantasy
that type of.
keytar.
Kinda, yeah. I'm gonna have to find a link to it. What else should is there to say about this character?
They're a weirdo?
Yeah, they're kind of a weirdo. They definitely
know
have
which-
very.
Do you know which college you're angling toward?
I'm going towards College of Creation.
I've never seen that
To-
played.
Make little things come to life, and sometimes your stool needs to walk around and do stuff.
I'm just going to leave that one as it is. That's great.
I left myself muted.
You left yourself muted on purpose. We're very mature here. Caitlan, tell us about Anthea Briarfoot.
All right, Anthea Briarfoot. So she uses she, her pronouns, and she is a halfling artificer, born to a family of halfling florists. So she often will use flowers and such, not for arrangements or whatever they use them for, but for her potions, of course, right? So she doesn't like to leave her house, but she is often kicked out of the house by her family or having to actually go out to grab supplies. Other than that, she likes to just stay in and research and read books. And why would you go out anyways? Everything is bad out there. No,
So
but it's just like...
So you're a sheltered nerd. Okay.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I
Yeah.
love it. And you've already said you're going alchemist.
I'm going to be going
So-
alchemist, yeah. I didn't say
that's-
explicitly, but yes. I'm gonna
It's
be going
pretty
alchemist.
obvious. You're not going to make
Yes.
flower guns.
I mean, I could try.
This is true. And finally,
That is the way of the artificer, making weird things out of whatever.
you could be the maverick
Yeah.
and just throw flowers like Tuxedo Mask that explode.
Oh, my work here is done.
You didn't do
But you
anything.
didn't do anything.
So good. Last but not least, Christine, tell us about Lady Alessandra and her long-ass name we couldn't fit on the screen.
We'll be playing Lady Alessandra Baraquel, who is an ASMR paladin, and she is from a noble family who is kind of like a long line of paladins type thing. And she is out to prove herself and prove her capability as a paladin because she is a bit frail, having had childhood illnesses, etc. And yeah, so she's not quite as tough as most paladins. And she's got to prove herself to her family that she can do this shit too. She's very well trained, but she's never gotten the opportunity to put it into practice because I think her family keeps her wrapped in cotton wool a little bit. So she is taking this as her opportunity to get out on a real adventure.
I am super proud of you, by the way, because you made this character with...
I was sitting there putting everything together just like an hour ago and just being like, oh my god, what am I doing? What am I doing? Because I normally build to be tough and like cool and really like, oh, get good stats and stuff. My highest stat is a 16.
Incredible.
And everybody will see this as of Monday when it's on our intro pages, our stat lines. I have a -1 to Constitution.
Oh, you're like Eva.
Oh my god.
I have horrible hit points.
Yeah, you're a tank, but you're like a first generation tank.
What? I have more hit points.
We have matching
And I
hit
don't do
points. Same
anything.
Because
hat.
I have a D10
hat.
and I add -1 to it.
Oh god.
This is so
It's gonna be great.
Oh my
It's gonna be great. I love that you're
I'm gonna
building to
die
character
so
and not building to
much.
min-max, though, because I hope that it will balance out, because traditionally you have pretty good luck with D20s. So
I mean, I'm pretty bummed only having a +3 in my powerful stats that are supposed to be my main paladin thing, so I'm a little worried that I'm not going to be able to do well with what I'm supposed to be good at, which is a little scary. So
As someone who regularly fails at everything their character is supposed to be good at, you just lean into it and you enjoy every failure as much as you would enjoy the success.
It's a little scary though when you're designed to be the tank.
Well, we've got 2 tanks.
Taryn is in the chat. Ask Taryn about my paladin that went down every
Just like,
combat.
Oh no.
I'm
Well,
fine
that's the
with
feeling.
screwing a lot of shit up, but
healing
screwing up
at
when it
some
comes to being
point.
hit, it kind of sucks. I'm like,
Well,
"Ooh."
we've got 3 forward fighters in this, so we've got some tank to spare.
So I'm
Right?
a little worried, but I figure it's going to be an interesting thing to play because she's not going to be tough. She's not going to be good at what she's doing, but she was trained to be good and her whole family's good at it. So it's like, oh, there's a lot to prove and to like stand up to, which is kind of a fun thing to have going on. So
I think it's
all
going to
of
be
my
really cool.
traits and whatnot from background are based on around the whole must prove myself, must not shame my family. Like,
So as we're going into this, let's talk about some character updates and things like that. Does anybody have any changes that they're making to any backgrounds? Does anybody... so going through, Christine, you're taking the noble background. Christa, you're taking the noble background because you're both nobles. Are you both cool with both of you being nobles? I think it'll play completely differently.
it made the most sense for how we were building my character, because you kind of offered soldier, but I'm like, she can't have been a soldier.
There is a
Not to have been the wrapped in cotton wool, frail paladin type.
Yeah, there is a subgenre of noble that is a knight.
I just didn't want to take the retainers because you get forced to take them with that one, and I figured if we're mainly going to end up in a dungeon, they're not going to be around at all. So what's the point?
Well, unless you want to sidekick.
No, they're very specifically not sidekicks.
Oh, that sucks.
They're there to do common stuff for you, like fetch food, light a fire, but they're not there to fight. They will not follow you into dangerous situations.
I mean, if you want to have an NPC that can just be basically like your smart-ass sidekick, if
you want a sidekick that you get to play.
If you want R2-D2 and C-3PO in this game, we can have that happen.
Do we need to add more smart aleck characters to our party is the question. Because I don't know about the characters, but I do know the players.
I am cool with having another situation like Claudette and Leodin type thing going on. Having the one who's like, ma'am, your mother will kill me. Don't fight. Stand at the back where you're safe.
Well, let me know if you want to switch out and have that as your sub noble. Like, take that instead. I'm totally fine.
That would only change the ability that
the
thing
ability
gives
is the
you,
only
so,
thing that really
yeah.
tends to bunch up when you have two people being like, I'm a noble, do what I say. I'm a noble, do what I say, right? Or two people having that little special ability. If anybody wants to trade out any part of their background, I'm completely fine with being flexible on it, especially if it's published material. If you want to create something special, or if you want to just design your background from the ground up, I'm totally fine with that as well, so long as it is sensible. Following the rules in Tasha's is probably the easiest way to do that, okay? So, Caitlan, you took, what is your background?
Guild artisan.
Guild Artisan, makes a lot of sense. Lyric was going with a modified version of...
It was going to be, I was thinking entertainer, but I was realizing that it didn't quite fit for like the specifics of the personality and the ideals. And that actually fit a lot better with Sage. So I'm taking kind of a blend, because Bard, from what I can, if I read correctly, lets you pick like 3 specialized skill specializations of your choice. Like it's not as restricted as other ones. So honestly, I can do anything and mix and match to make it work out for what I want. So
sounds good. And Sindri went with Sailor, which makes a lot of sense because you've traveled all around. So as we go through, by the way, if anybody wants any feats, let me know. I'm totally fine with stuff from Unearthed Arcana, so long as it's not one of those 2 things that is just completely out to lunch, or the psionic stuff at this point. Well, who knows, maybe later. And for some of our games, we do feat customization. For example, in Dragonlance, Robin's Kender has a customized feat for her background that lets her basically take Kender stuff. Well, take other people's stuff at least. So let me know if you ever want something kind of fleshed out or tweaked, or if there's anything that fits your character better. Christa, you were asking me earlier if you could swap out your fighting style as per Unearthed Arcana at a later level, and I'm like,
so there is an Unearthed Arcana that allows you to swap out your fighting style at every time you level. So I'm not going to be changing it every time. I just have a plan that in a couple of levels I think I want to swap over as like a character building thing, but again, maybe I won't, and maybe we'll see where it goes.
Sounds good. So that said, let's talk about this. So the entire purpose of this, getting into the meat of the story at this point, so you all are traveling from Neverwinter, theoretically together, and are making your way toward the Phandelver area and Phandelver itself. Now they give you a bunch of different options, so it's recommended at least one character uses the Meet Me in Phandelver hook to connect you to a dwarf called Gundren Rockseeker. Okay, he's kind of your contact there. So Meet Me in Phandelver is you're in the city of Neverwinter when your dwarf patron and friend Gundren Rockseeker hires you to escort a wagon to Phandelver. Gundren has gone ahead with a warrior, Sildar Hallwinter, to attend business in the town while you follow with supplies. You will be paid 10 gold pieces per head that you are hired above by the owner of Barthen's Provisions in Phandelver when you deliver the wagon safely. So some of you could be traveling as well. You could be a friend of the Harpers, where you spent much of your life in awe of the Harpers, a secretive organization dedicated to promoting good and preserving history. You've always wanted to join, but you've struggled to gain the group's attention. You're headed to Phandelver, where you hope your good deeds will gain their notice. You could be a Gauntlet trainee, where you have pledged yourself to the Order of the Gauntlet, a devout and vigilant group that seeks to protect others from evildoers. Before you become a full-fledged member, you've decided to meet your hero, a retired adventurer named Darren Edermath, who was part of the Order and has thwarted many local threats. Darren lives in Phandelver in a cottage beside an apple orchard. You plan to visit him and drink in his wisdom before joining the Order yourself. So those are the 3 general hooks. There are also some character hooks that are tied to backgrounds that I am going to just suggest to you. So Guild Artisan is pretty obvious in many ways. You've learned useful trades in Neverwinter, but the city is home to too many artisans that use that skill. Now you're heading where you can hope to start a business. That's an option, Caitlan, or something like that. These are ones where the plot doesn't really depend on it, but it's just kind of a little bit of extra flavor. The noble one, your family is based in Neverwinter, but you own property throughout the Sword Coast. You inherited a cottage in Phandelver and must inspect the place before you decide to keep or sell it. I
kind of like that one for me, potentially, because that feels like a safe quest that her family may have sent her on type thing.
Take it. Absolutely. Sailor, you've sailed along the Sword Coast, but a brush with death made you rethink your profession. You're headed to Phandelver to decide what's next. That's a really open one.
I mean, that kind of fits with the background I had written up for Sindri.
Kind of does,
but it
really.
ties it also ties in quite well with the Meet Me in Phandelin like story quest. It's like, well, got a job in Neverwinter, took that job, hit the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I kind of more see Sindri at, because just kind of like just on the road for adventure doesn't necessarily offer anything for story wise for hooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also the criminal one for anybody who wants it, which is you're wanted for crimes and are going to hang low in the small community to the south. That's a great one. Amy, Sage, I'm not sure. What is Lyric's motivation?
Lyric wants to make a difference in the world and learn more about things. Like is like really out there to find truth and information and knowledge and confirmation of her ideals, and is also probably running from her family and parts of trying to not be part of her lineage, escape her lineage if she can.
The Friend of the Harpers hook, do you think that'd be something she'd be interested in? Joining Chris Pine?
That one appeals to me. Yeah. Okay. And other notable Harpers.
No, just Chris Pine. Just Chris Pine. There's only Chris Pine. Okay. Carmilla, which one you were interested in? Which one?
Friends of the Harpers.
Okay. You both can be interested in that. Okay. And then, Sindri, you also, when we spoke earlier, were interested in the Meet Me in Phandelin, having known Rockseeker. Right?
Yeah, that seems like a pretty reasonable.
Okay. And then Anthea, what speaks to you the most out of all of those? Or do you want to hear some more?
No, well, I do like the guild artisan one, and it makes a lot of sense because Neverwinter is home to a lot of artisans, which is why I was like, oh, maybe she, lives in Neverwinter, and grew up around Neverwinter area. But I also like the kind of like, oh, you're old now, like you're old enough now, like you're getting kicked out of your house kind of a thing. Like go make something of yourself. Like, this skill, you can do this. So
that's fair. There's also, if she's a nerd, the Sage one is in the academic halls of Neverwinter. You studied the region's historical alliance between Phandelin and its neighbors. The fate of the lost mine of Phandelver has always fascinated you, and you're traveling to Phandelin to discover whether any locals know about rumors to its fate. So that's kind of like
would be interesting.
So just there are some little seeds and things like that. So. Okay, cool. Now I kind of know where we're starting with this. When the adventure begins, you're all going to be in Neverwinter, and you're all going to be kind of gathered and meeting at the same wagon if you don't already know each other. Okay? Christa and Caitlan, you were interested in having Carmilla and Anthea know each other and already have a pre-existing bond. Does anyone else think that they would have an existing bond to anyone?
I don't know
Ella
if I would.
and Lyric?
I haven't really thought of it, but it would be fun to have one.
Yeah, I'd be down for having one. I don't know necessarily which.
I
who it
feel
would
like
make sense with.
Lyric may have. I like the idea that maybe she was a bit of a tutor or something for like. I don't know, some maybe teaching Infernal or something as a language.
Yeah, that could work because you need to know what to speak before you smite it.
Yeah.
So that could be good. I feel like Sindri is the disconnected one out of this group because he's just a hired gun who ends up sticking with them through thick and thin in the end.
Goon.
I can definitely
goons.
see a perchance like we didn't arrive here together, but we know each other because Carmilla is on the run ostensibly like from her family because they want her back. So it wouldn't surprise me if she's taken a boat from somewhere. So if she was on a long sea travel and Sindri was working on that boat, maybe they have like adventured for them. I mean, they've had a long journey together in the past. So it might be like that. What the hell are you doing here?
What was the hometown you were thinking of for your character?
Vaguely Barovian. I don't have a specific hometown picked out.
When
I was
push
thinking
comes to shove,
Raven
Baldur's Gate's
Lothian.
always a good one, but
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I was thinking that because I don't think Lyric is from Neverwinter. I think that's like her most recent stop on her way on her adventures of life.
Yeah, because Sindri's not a pirate or anything. He's like working, say, like merchant routes generally. So it would make sense for him to have met people on their way up, especially
Maybe
if they
from
just got to
Waterdeep.
town.
I don't know.
Yeah, Waterdeep's pretty good.
Well,
I hear
that
there's a
then
dragon
might be
heist
a
there.
nice interconnect of everyone is if Lyric and Sindri have been on a boat together, and Carmilla and Sindri have been on a boat together,
Mm.
and then Anthea and Lyric are together, and me and Anthea are together, and then it gives us kind of a tying of all 5 of us if we have a history.
There's also a good chance that Alessandra and Carmilla both kind of either have met each other at some point or know of each other's families through noble.
Alessandra has done history lessons on wiping out the Alizarins. And
I
I've
think that's...
probably done the same. We're like,
did we all end up in the same history class together?
Are you guys gonna make out or what?
No, I did not end up in the
You
same
guys
history
had
class as
history
y'all.
classes?
Exactly. Y'all went to
I'll make
school?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I think Lyric, so originally from Waterdeep, I think maybe met Sindri on the way to Candlekeep or something. I don't know the geography. I'm sorry. It's not clear to me.
It's the Sword
But
Coast. It's all
probably-
along a coast.
Yeah, right. Was going to Candlekeep to try and go and learn some to get a proper education, and then next thing you know, they're in Neverwinter together for some reason. It's like, look, it didn't work out.
Just
I
don't worry
will
about
not
it.
elaborate.
Redacted. Hey, what happened in Candlekeep? Train noise. Like, don't worry about it.
But yeah, so I figure like Lyric probably then has been earning money primarily through being a tutor for like history and infernal.
Perfect.
It's south
well,
of Baldur's Gate. I couldn't find Candlekeep on the map before. Sorry, I'm
It's
just
Candlekeep.
south
I'm together.
It's a little spot on the map. It's very small,
It's just south of Baldur's Gate.
but
I
it's full of
see.
mysteries.
Down Coast Way. Yes, apparently.
You can find all
And
of those
books to
episodes
eat
over
you.
on over on our YouTube, guys. Go there. All right, so since we're talking about Infernal, let's talk about languages, just so that we have some common languages together. Everybody obviously has common. Lyric, you get Infernal. Christa, what do you get any other languages for being a Dampier? I can't remember.
So I get one extra language, and then as a noble I get an additional language. Vampire is a language, which made me laugh really hard.
Blah 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 blah. I do not blah blah blah. I blah 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 to college level.
Except I decided to go with Infernal and Celestial because I gotta be edgelord and be just as basic as humanly possible. And I was like, her family taught her Infernal, but she wanted to learn the language of the light. And so she learned Celestial.
So good. It's so dumb. I love it. Thank you for that. While we're getting into this, Caitlan obviously speaks Halfling. Chris obviously speaks Elven. And then Christine, do you get Celestial for free?
No, ASMR just get a language as far as I can tell. So I'm not quite sure what to take.
I mean, Celestial would be good. I'm gonna tell
I do
you
get
that...
2 others because I get one for Noble and one for being ASMR.
Okay. So out of the book, the ones that are gonna come up, so Dwarven, always. The normal basic languages are good. The ones that are going to affect this module a lot, as far as I can see, there's a lot of Goblin. There's a lot of Undercommon. There might even be some Deep Speech in here. I don't expect any of you to have Deep Speech. But Undercommon, if you're a goth potentially, yeah.
Just to point it out there, I took Gnomish because I get another language. Yeah,
Nice.
well, because I figured that a lot of artificers are probably gnomes, and so I probably
That's true.
have studied with a lot of them. So
Yeah, so I
like
guess it depends on which book you take ASMR from. I'm looking at it from, I think I was looking at the first one on Wikidot, which is the Mordenkainen. Volos does give you Celestial.
Does it?
But it doesn't allow you to pick anything. It just gives you Common and Celestial.
I mean, so, but the
But But I kind of like the way this stuff is laid out for like your Celestial Revelation in Morning Guidance and versus Volos.
Anybody care if Christine gets an extra language?
I don't care at all.
Take Celestial.
Actually,
You have a
on
con of 8.
the-
Take a Celestial.
On the topic of backgrounds and languages, technically, if I went, since I'm leaning more heavily on the Sage side of it, that one gives you bonus languages, and Entertainer did not. So I'm leaning more towards that, and I would like to at least take one extra language.
You
and
can
preferably
pick and
Draconic.
choose. Yeah, you can take Draconic. Be nice to have somebody have Draconic. In Dragonlance, we don't have anyone with Draconic, and it's got dragons and lances. So it would be...
At least I
Yes.
took Lance.
Does anybody have suggestions for what I should take for another
Land?
language? Is
If
there anything
you're
we should have?
there,
So-
I mean, what do you guys think?
So I've taken Dwarven for like
Nice.
for crafters and other people that I might have encountered in bars and docks.
Perfect.
I speak Elven and Common. Don't imagine Sindri speaking anything kind of unusual. But your character sounds like more academic, more studied, more learned.
Mhm.
Is there some a type of study that you saw your character doing more of? Anything that you really saw?
I was thinking like anything that would have. So I'm going to be in the long run an Oath of the Watchers paladin. So my family has stood against how does it put it? The influence of extraplanar forces.
So, if you're looking at extraplanar forces, the exotic languages: Abyssal, Infernal, Primordial. Don't take Primordial; it's not going to come up. I'm just going to point blank say that's not really in this one. Draconic, Deep Speech, which is Mind Flayers and Beholders. Then Sylvan, not going to come up, not really. And then Undercommon is anything for dealing with the Underdark. So if you're hunting drow,
What are we going to do in the Underdark? Why would we be in the Underdark? We're just going to Phandelver.
yeah, there's nothing in the Underdark.
All right, so we do have somebody though who does Infernal, I think, right? Krista kind of defaults to that.
Me and I think Amy, were you taking Infernal?
As a tiefling, yes, I speak Infernal.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got that covered, so I won't bother touching that. And Amy, you were thinking about taking Draconic as well?
Yeah, I figure if I'm, yeah.
And we've got Celestial covered.
Hmm.
I guess that leaves Deep Speech and Abyssal.
Yep.
So what do you think?
Wait,
Mind
did
Flayers
somebody,
or
did somebody
demons?
say Undercommon?
I
I
was
guess Undercommon as well.
considering Undercommon instead of Infernal, but I think Infernal is more applicable to the background.
Are you talking to demons? Or pardon me, you talking to devils, or are you talking to drow?
See, that's the question. Is like it could be, I don't know, because like where do vampires fall?
I mean, vampires speak blah blah blah, but
They do.
they speak blah blah blah. But I would say that vampires would have a lot of sway in the Underdark because there's no sunlight.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of
Right?
made
It's
for them.
it's an entire
Okay.
world where they can just
I'm happy to take Undercommon, and then I don't even have to take Celestial. I could take another, like, I don't know, what are good people? What do we think are the good language? Celestial feels like the
Dutch.
the and I speak Dutch. just straight up Dutch.
You can take Dutch for free. I'll allow it.
Why?
Fantastic. If we meet anybody that's from Amsterdam or from the Netherlands, I speak it.
No, the
Anyway,
Netherlands speak Undercommon.
I feel like Deep Speech might be more likely for her
Yeah.
family. Because I feel like Mind Flayers more feel like extraplanar beings.
Yeah, if you're a warden, Deep Speech does mean you'd be fighting like Mind Flayers. Gith speak Gith, but like, so yeah, if you want to do Undercommon and you want to do Deep Speech, then you've got a gamut covered.
Yeah, the only
Cool.
one I think we're lacking from that then is Abyssal from the
Yeah.
ones that you said might be useful.
And Goblin.
And I'm
Goblin
very
is
much planning on taking Comprehend Languages as a spell.
I could take Goblin, but because of backstory things, she probably wouldn't want to.
okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But there are goblins in like the Neverwinter Forest and
And
stuff. so-
isn't Goblin a like sub language of Undercommon?
No,
No, I thought it was. I thought it was registered as being like
is
it's
it? I don't think so.
technically like a sub.
Its script is Dwarvish.
Oh,
Yeah,
weird.
And Elven.
Goblin is like
Undercommon script
Stitchish.
is Elvish. So I feel like they're actually completely different.
Oh,
Amy,
see,
you should
it depends on the book. One book it's Dwarvish, one it's Goblin, has its own
Oh.
own script.
Weird.
One it's Common, and then a different one it's Dwarvish, and then there's one. Then Orc uses a Goblin script.
Goblin
Okay, so
script just
my
looks like
PHB was printed 2018. It's 10th printing.
Yeah. So this one is in Eberron. They have their own script.
that's how they do it. It's
In
Eberron.
Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, it's a common script. In the PHB, it's Dwarvish, and then it's also Dwarvish in Dragonlance.
Yeah, it's all the different areas. So the PHB,
It's so silly.
I know the PHB kind of like leans directly into like the vanilla. So,
Gotcha.
Amy, how many languages do you get? You could take Goblin.
Well, Undercarmen is Elvish.
I only got 2 as a bard, from what I could tell. It was or it didn't give me anything special. No, it was
for your
like I got
background,
the
though?
ones for my race, and then
Yeah.
bard didn't give me anything special.
Paladin
So
doesn't give
by
me
taking
anything either.
Yeah, so by
So I got
taking
it for background and
Sage
race.
primarily, and just like a couple, like I think I took like maybe one personality thing from Entertainer,
Okay.
and the skills.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that
We can
gives
always
me
customize
one
it.
more to.
Play around with.
So that's why I'm taking
All right.
Draconic.
Sounds good. So now that languages are done, next we're going to talk about a couple of things real quick. We're going to talk about tone, themes, and content. Running a session 0 is a really important time to have a table talk and make sure that you're all on the same page with everybody, and to make sure that everyone is looking for the same experience. Because if some people are wanting like an episodic Star Trek style game where you go, you solve a problem, then you leave, with some interpersonal drama in between, and some of you want a dungeon crawl, those are completely different game styles. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about content and language, themes, violence, lines and veils, as well as some body horror stuff. And then we're going to go over our house rules that we use on the channel so that new players and new viewers know what we do here. So first of all, I wanted to jump into film rating. This game is a light R. From what I've read so far. It is on par with like Stephen King, or like, I don't want to say too much, but it's got some horror vibes later on, and it's got a lot of gross in it later. I mean, look at the cover. It's pretty gross looking, right? So that said, on Dork Tales, like we're a mature channel, so we've got that little mature button up. That like enjoy yourselves. Any type of R description is fine by me. And any type of language, so long as you're not like F-bombing every other word, enjoy yourself, you know? Yeah, there you go. Just mute yourself. You mouth it all you want. Okay? Mature is in rating, not as an attitude. Okay, so themes. This one is going to have a lot of themes of horror, of change, of kind of themes of like spiritual and physical violation in a lot of ways. I don't want to give anything away, but Wizards of the Coast is being very thematic with some of their recent products, and there is a lot of gross stuff in this. That said, Dork Tales doesn't really deal with anything involving SA or anything that is non-consensual on any type of romantic or sexual sense. So you don't have to worry about that. This is more like mutations and like mind control and things like that. So that said, the themes are going to be, I'm assuming you guys are going to be like semi-heroic, because you kind of are going to be stopping something. To be the bad guys in this, you would have to go so above and beyond that even an edgelord would have a little bit of trouble with it, I think. So I think you'll be okay. Violence is obviously going to be on the table because this is it's a D&D module. This is very dungeon crawl heavy. I want to make sure you know that. So you will have to learn to like ration your spells and abilities. There are so many dungeon maps here. I actually don't know how long this module is going to take us to run because of that, because dungeon crawls do take a while. So just be ready for that, and we'll have some fun with it. That said as well, I am 100% fine if anybody wants any romantic, any implied sexual stuff for their character. If you want to get married and have kids in character, I don't care. Approach me about it. Say that you're interested in it. As always, my NPCs are pretty pansexually flirty. If you're interested in it. So anybody jumps out at you, just let me know. Does anybody have anything? Is anybody looking for that type of thing in character? Think about it. Let me know. But I also want to know, does anybody have any lines or veils as we're going in here? Like I said, this game does have body horror, and there is a much maligned section at the beginning of the book I want to read you. I've seen a lot of posts of angry people, the usual angry people, complaining about this little section here called "Player Consent is Required." Before you use certain rules presented in this section, check with each player to determine if they are open to their character experiencing physically transformative effects. A player will not miss the game benefits if they choose not to use these rules for their character. So basically, there are things that could change you in many different ways in this. However, as with all things at a Dork Tales table, we try to be consent-based as much as possible. If I'm ever doing anything, I will slip up from time to time. I will make a mistake. I will take a story in a way that you might not wish it did. Please let me know, either after session, privately in our private chat, or just try to steer it back the other direction. Feel free to stop me in the middle of the scene if it is making you uncomfortable. I want to know what your lines and veils are so that we can all enjoy this experience together, particularly because it's going to be a spoopy one. It is my solemn opinion that consent in role-playing games is very, very important, particularly in games like this, for one reason. I see a lot of people complain that consent ruins the surprise. Yes, it ruins the shock of the surprise. However, if I am to tell you right now that this module has something that may change your character irrevocably forever, you will now know that going in, and that is where the horror comes from, because you will be dreading it as we go in, rather than me suddenly saying, and now you have two heads, and you're like, what the?
So,
and then you're...
So what you're saying is, when I go and do the thing I usually do, which is touch and lick and like explore every cursed room, and like read everything out loud, I will be punished for it, and I personally am totally fine with that. I know what I'm doing. Like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Truly the D&D motto. So I'm fine with that personally.
Okay, cool. That said, if anybody does have any lines or veils, so for those who don't know lines and veils, lines are hard lines we don't cross. We don't do anything with sexualized violence. And if we ever did encroach anything like that, it would be heavily content warned and would see our Mage the Ascension of the Victorian Age game for talk of that. But it's just not interesting, right?
I have two.
Yeah, what are your... And veils are things that we like... Probably not. With care. But give us an example, Caitlan.
Well, mine are just really like physical things I can't imagine personally for me. The mummy scarred me and I can't have things crawling under my skin. Sorry.
So you can do that to me. It's all good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can be happening to somebody else. I always get too into my character. But one thing that I just will need to tune out if it happens is I can't really deal with trypophobic imagery. So just let me know if that's kind of a thing that's going to be going on, and then I'll just either tune out or not listen or something.
Okay,
I know there was something that was potentially a little trypophobic in a different one, and I just kind of glossed over it.
So just to talk about that, so trypophobia, look it up if you don't know what it is, because Caitlan probably doesn't want to hear about it. But there is one image in this book that is vaguely trypophobic. And there is one person, may I describe it real quick, just what it is? It's a person who's mutated to have spider eyes around their face. So it's like a bunch of little black eyes around their face. Is that too much, or?
No. Mine's usually if it's like a hole with something in it, usually, or if it looks like it's a hole with something in it and there's multiple.
Concave,
of them.
not convex.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a much squishier.
Usually.
The viscera inside of this is
That's
literally
okay.
visceral.
Oh,
Okay.
it's a cat.
but good to know. Okay, so no trypophobia.
Sorry.
there's a
Yeah,
boss.
yeah, that's it.
Okay, no scarabs in skin or skin crawling
Yeah.
things. Chris, I know you really don't like that as well. Are you? If it happens to someone else, are you okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's less bad than it used to be.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. After
let-
getting like bed bugs at like in my early 20s, like it took me a while before I got over that.
Ditto.
And yeah, I got there.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to put forward? Lines or bills?
Eyeball stuff and nails. Please don't.
Eyeballs.
At least don't describe it viscerally. I can handle the abstract of it as long as we're not going into any extensive detail.
Dungeon Masters,
Exactly.
remember there is a big difference between describing something passively and actively. You don't have to zoom in to say, yes, they're torturing him by doing a thing, and then having that scene from Dead Space that we all know about.
Oh man, I hadn't thought about that for a minute.
I've been watching a lot of retrospective videos recently on old video games. Okay, so if there are no more lines and veils, then we can move on. So everybody's cool with body horror? Oh, Christine, what'd you say?
Yeah, I was just waiting for other people to finish their thoughts.
Sorry,
You've
go ahead.
Not giving me a chance. Stuff to do with the idea of getting, like Amy was saying, like it's okay a touch of it because you need like maybe pathos or something like that, but getting too in depth on stuff like cruelty to small children, cruelty to animals, etc., like just over the top, like descriptive cruelty is like, it's just gonna gross me out and make me feel very unhappy.
Sounds good. And if any of that comes up, I'll warn you. How are you on like children possessed by demons? That's fine, because that's not really cruelty, I guess, so much as it's just horror.
Yeah, I think like
Okay.
horror is fine. It's when you really dwell on it and it's like cruelty for the sake of cruelty versus like something just a bit like being horrific. But like dwelling on the description is like saying it happens is one thing, but dwelling on a like intense description is like just another level. That's like,
okay. So that said, for those of you who are used to Dork Tales, and all my regular players, you know that when it comes to this kind of stuff, I will never have anything that is something like that unless you can do something about it. Right? Somebody who kicks a cat is going to get their comeuppance right quick. Right? And you get to save the cat. Right? Because straw manning is fun. It's fun in a narrative context. Okay, cool. Last chance on anything there. Perfect. That said, on the body horror consent, does anybody not feel like having the body horror stuff happen if it comes down to it? Cool. All right. You can also tell me in private chat later. Amy.
I have a caveat of that I want the body horror to at least be interesting and not just gross.
I think okay. Fair. And you can
If
always
it's just gross, then it's like meh. But if it's interesting and you're like, oh, that's grotesque but fascinating, that's something a little different.
I think it could be. It could be. We'll have to see how this goes. And if I ever am off the mark, we can always say that you mutated between games. You're like, Quaid, start the reactor. You know, like
we'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. That's literally what we'll do. Okay, let's go on to house rules. House rules. We tend not to use like a super amount of house rules inside of our module games, and our homebrew games we use tons. So go check out our wiki about that. Thank you, wiki lords. Okay, so house rules and DM caveat. I use the rule of cool. If it's cool, I will allow you to roll for it. If I would rather hand wave a bad rule or a rule that doesn't fit a situation. Okay, we're here to have fun. It is a narrative improvisational game as much as it is a battle simulator. It's not a particularly good battle simulator if we're trying to get into like real life physics, real life magic. There's no, we're here to play a game. We're here to have fun. So if there is a giant purple worm and you want to surf on it, by all means, give me an acrobatics or athletics roll.
Surfing on the purple worm sounds like
it sounds like a sex position. Yeah.
I was gonna say it sounded like a drug, but all right.
Same, like yeah, like chasing
I'm
the
surfing
dragon.
the purple worm, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Or something. The
I've
green
done that more than
fairy. I
once.
don't know.
So I'll also be awarding inspiration whenever you do something that just blows me away. We use our inspiration before or after a roll. You can use it for a reroll, much like Baldur's Gate 3. You know, the only thing is you can't use inspiration to negate a botch. If you botch, you botch. Because I think it's good. We also use nat 20s and nat 1s on attack rolls and saving throws. We don't use them on skill checks because no. But if you roll a nat 20, I will color it more favorable to you. Right. So you may not automatically convince the king to give you his castle, but he might think you're extra cool and invite you to dinner, and then you marry his daughter or her son a couple years down the line. So nat 20s though, you can nat 20 on spells in our version. So if you're using Firebolt, you can nat 20 on that. You can also botch it. You can also botch a saving throw. You can also nat 20 a saving throw in our games, meaning if I drop a fireball and you all nat 20, you take 0 damage. You're an anime character, enjoy. However, if you roll a 1, like has happened several times on fireballs in Dragonlance, you become a charred dwarven mage. Thank you, Jen. We also have... We've also been doing something recently with death saves. The last couple games, death saves have been rolled by me. And I don't tell you if you're succeeding or not until the time is right. This has been one that I've always wanted people to vote on. So the way that it would work is this. You are in death saving throws. I ask what you would like to remember. What is tying you to this realm? And for your turn, you give me a memory, or a goal, or something that is holding you on. If it is particularly poignant and well role-played, I will roll with advantage. If you do not give me anything, you have nothing to live for, and I roll with disadvantage. This is a way to allow you to do something even though it's not your turn, because you are in death saves, which is the most boring part of the game. Right? And I roll behind the scenes so that everybody else does not know. I have had it before where people have been really fine with this, but wanted to privately know whether or not they were succeeding or not because it made them too anxious. If that is the case, let me know. But is everybody cool with these death save rules? Perfect. All right. Also, when we're running live on Twitch, we have channel points. Channel points are a non-cash currency that you gain by watching the stream live. You can use that to buy things on the channel. So we have a few of them. We have this one called Determination. Determination is a little token that appears on the character's windows right next to their class. When you see that, that means the character has one. They can have a max of 1 at any given time. You were literally touching it, Christa. It was great. They can spend that to add their proficiency to any roll before I tell them whether or not they have succeeded. So they can do it before or after they roll. If they roll a 19 and they're like, oh, I really want that 20, so I'll add my +2 proficiency bonus, they can do so. Then I remove the determination. It can be repurchased for them later. They cannot have multiple instances of it, only one at a time, because otherwise that's way too much bookkeeping for me. And it is a nice fun thing. It stacks with your proficiency bonus as your proficiency bonus goes up. There are also 3 other buyables that you will hear us talk about a lot. The first is Hurt Them More. Hurt Them More is a cheat card for me. It allows me to do things like heal enemies, have another enemy appear, take an extra attack, recharge a spell, take an action out of my turn, do things that negate player advantage, or make players roll with disadvantage. It is a really great thing. I love it because 5e is a pretty easy system, really. Sometimes, though, players need a little help. That's why the Something Good Happens exists. Something Good Happens can be spent. I spend it to either make a check easier, let a player re-roll something. Maybe they find a material component they need for a spell. And it basically just makes it a little easier. And then Drama Bomb means that I spend that to make the most dramatic thing possible happen in that circumstance. The roof falls down, the enemy escapes to haunt you another day, your true love is pregnant, these type of things, right? Like, and it's not yours. And he's very confused by both sides of this. So these are great. So when you hear us talk about those, that's what we're talking about. And hopefully it won't be that confusing. Does anybody have any questions about our house rules? Christa.
I have a question about possibly implementing one, because the death saves are very cool and it really adds like the tension. If there is going to be like body horror, like body manipulation and stuff that's happening, I personally think it would be very fun to have you roll those saves and then just describe what's happening, and either we're turning or we're not. And it is, I feel like you would describe it incredibly interestingly whether or not
Okay.
we failed, and I feel like it's much more interesting to hear a sentence lead up and go or oh no, instead of just rolling a die and seeing that. So that I would pitch it, but if no one else is interested, I'm totally fine with that not being a
I'm
thing.
fine doing the extra legwork if you guys want it. What do you think?
That sounds good.
I don't have a preference, so sure.
Chris?
If no one else is like as like adamantly excited about it, I'd say let's just roll our saves. But I will pitch that to you as a future horror game option where
Okay.
like no one knows if they're making it or not.
That sounds good.
It's interesting. It makes it feel a little less interactive. I like it as a storytelling device, but I don't necessarily know if I enjoy that as a game mechanic is the only thing.
Okay.
But
Well,
like I'm
100%.
kind of ambivalent towards it.
All right.
Cool.
Well, let's put it on the shelf for now and see how the first couple go. And then if we want to institute it after that, we always can. I think it's a good idea, Christa, though. I think that we're going to have some fun in the future with other games. There is one final game mechanic that I was going to suggest we maybe talk about. We have been using an alternate game mechanic that I actually took from Ginny D. We've been using it over on Dreams of Arcos, one of our homebrew games. And what it is critical inspiration or inspired criticals. Critical hits are great. They're great, but they're also pretty weak in 5e. You're only using double your damage. So inspired criticals basically function as follows. Christine gets a nat 20 on a roll. Christine then looks around the group and determines who gains a point of inspiration from her critical. Your allies are super good. Your allies are doing something amazing, and you gain a little bit of inspiration. The inspiration has to be used in that fight. It vanishes pretty much immediately after the fight, but it does mean that you can do some really epic things. The caveat is, if you can do it, the enemies can do it. So a mob of goblins might be inspired as well. Is that something you guys would like to try, or you want to leave it on the shelf? Chris?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I really like that. It feels like it gives the potential for things to snowball either really well or really badly for us. But that's like it's still what we're doing that's having that impact.
And no one is taking silvery barbs, right?
No.
Or okay.
Go ahead, Caitlan.
I was
Not
just gonna
yet.
say it really is like it's definitely like kind of if you were in there in the battle, the kind of the way the morale would go if you were like really failing and then oh my god, if you're really succeeding. So it kind of brings that element to it, and I really like that.
It's pretty cool, and I've enjoyed it in Arcos. It's made some of the fights really epic. Especially because like out of nowhere, like Kel rolled like 3 nat 20s in 3 rounds, and just everybody was like circling this little meek Medusa druid who's just throwing out inspiration like candy, and it turned into this big epic fight. So I really like that. That sounds good. So let's go with inspired crits. We'll do that. Thanks, Ginny D, for...
Does that count when I get a crit range of 19 to 20?
Yeah, it's a crit.
Sick.
This is why you're a champion. Not a cambion. All right. So that is our house rules section. So I just wanted to say real quick, a big shout out to a couple of people that really did a lot of hard work for this. The first is our artist, Kiyoshuki. Kiyoshuki is an amazing artist who did all of the character art for this game. You can go support her. She's over on Twitter. You'll see her in the credits at the end of this episode. And she does amazing commissions. She's very reasonable and is an incredibly quick and professional artist to work with. We use her for most of our major module games. So if you're looking for something for your campaign, you can't go wrong. Kiyoshuki is fantastic. Go check her out. I also wanted to thank Michael, our graphic designer, who is responsible for this and some stuff you'll be seeing next week, because this is not the real version. This is the session 0 version of the overlay frames. And it is going to be it's going to be fantastic. He's doing something completely different. And
I had to look close because I hoped it was the one that he sent.
I would just thought about that too. Not gonna lie.
Is going to be good. So thank you very much, Michael, for all the hard work you do. You can check him out over on twitch.tv/SylvesterSlays, or you can check him out over on Friday nights on Brecarious's channel on Twitch at twitch.tv/Precarious. Mike is also going to be in some stuff that's coming up soon, so you'll be able to see him directly there and see his hard work that he is putting together for those games. Besides that, does anybody have any last things that they want to talk about this game? All right.
I'm very excited for my first Dork Tales game. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be part of the team for this.
Well, it's good to have you back, Chris. We haven't played with Chris in like 6 years, so this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Truly. Someone, I was like, oh yeah, well, 2019, that was like a couple of years ago, or that was like last year, right? It's like, no, that was 4 years ago. Yeah, and then it was like, oh, I moved over in 2017. Yeah, truly, I felt like this, like, speaking of the mommy, like my skin falling off, like it was truly just...
Well, you're remarkably well preserved. All right. You know who else is remarkably well preserved? Our Patreon. Hey folks, if you want to help keep the lights on around here and make sure that more things like this, because we have an upcoming Planescape game, and who knows, we might even be going to tackle some old modules and also returning to Mage and maybe some other World of Chronicles of Darkness games. You never know. To help that happen and to get a bunch of exclusive content, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dorktales, where for as little as $5 a month, you can get 3, 4, 5 additional games a month, a podcast, and a lot more. It's a great way to support the channel directly. And it's also September right now if you're on Twitch, where you can drop your Twitch sub because, hey, give us Amazon's money. It's all good. I really want to thank all of our patrons who make this happen. Our world building producers, Jade, the maker of monsters, our divine producer, my mom, who will be seeing tomorrow. Hi, Mom. Our demonic producer, Precarious, our wizards of the Patreon, Tammy, the Forever Cleric, and the Ink Goblin, and our high council of the Patreon, Taryn, Buddy, Amberthist, Raven with Baubles, Karasha Urquhart, Chef Aladeth, Larouk, Sorcerer Sanguine, Mike Baxter, and Kaylin Whitebeard. To join them, head to patreon.com/dorktales today and join the fun. Welcome to the party. Also, a big thank you to our sponsor, Bookworm Games. We also couldn't do it without you. You guys are amazing sponsors, and we are very lucky to have you by our side. With that, I think that's it for the day, guys. We'll be back in 4 days on Monday. So come and join us for the actual first game. I will be probably running my streaming setup off of like an ironing board at my mom's house in Kansas, but I'll hopefully her internet access is good. I'm really hoping. This was the promise. She's like, come down for my birthday, and I'm like, I'm literally starting a new show that week. So it's gonna be fun.
I'm gonna be for my brother, my siblings, the next one.
Oh God, we'll survive. We'll survive. All right, so we'll see you on Monday when we go beneath with Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk. That's going to be a mouthful to say every time. Good night,
You
everybody.
don't need to eat the obelisk every time. It's fine.
You don't have to eat the entire obelisk. You can have a Shattered Obelisk as a treat.
Just a little bit as a treat.
Just nibble.
Good night, everybody.